Everyone. I'm Jordan Mayer, an advisor for the Senior Leadership Board. My team is happy to have you here today to review the non-technical risks and opportunities of precision medicine. We hope this presentation will provide more insight into diversifying your portfolio as you shift away from conventional energy technologies. Precision medicine is a developing technology and requires professional investigation to provide a proper advisory report. We will therefore be discussing the background, impacts, sustainability, indigenous perspectives, and risks of precision medicine in order to provide future-facing advice for your team. Before we start the presentation, I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge and pay tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, which includes the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation within Alberta, which includes the Nose Hill Métis District 5 and Elbow Métis District 6. We acknowledge and give gratitude to the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations to call Calgary home. I'll begin the presentation with an introduction to the change that is occurring from traditional healthcare models to precision medicine. Historically, healthcare has operated on a one-size-fits-all model, where treatments are developed based on population averages. While this approach has enabled scalability and broad access, it tends to be reactive and can often come with variability in effectiveness along with adverse side effects. Although the upfront cost is lower, the inefficiencies of current healthcare practices can increase long-term healthcare costs. Conversely, precision medicine prevents a shift in our current healthcare system, aiming to move away from the one-size-fits-all model. Rather than treating the average patient, this technology uses genomic, molecular, and lifestyle data to tailor care to the individual. Targeting specific biological pathways allows for more effective treatments and a reduction in adverse drug reactions. While this technology comes with a higher cost, the long-term value stems from improved health outcomes. To understand where precision medicine is heading, it is important to recognize its origins. Long before modern healthcare systems, Indigenous medicine practiced a deeply personalized approach. This was based on an individual's environment, lifestyle, and even spiritual context. This reflected the beginnings of precision medicine, seeing that health is not uniform and effective treatment must take a holistic view. A major breakthrough in precision medicine came from the completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003. This allowed us to map and understand the genetic basis of disease at a large scale. Today, precision medicine integrates genomics, computer algorithms, and patient data to guide clinical decisions. This has allowed treatments to be more proactive, targeted, and personalized for each individual, posing great opportunities for an efficient healthcare system. However, it also comes with ethical concerns surrounding data privacy and cultural impact. Thus, protecting public trust and responsibly improving patient outcomes through precision medicine should be maintained. I will now hand the presentation off to Wesley to discuss the sustainability of precision medicine.
Hi, everybody. I'm Wesley Demers. My role within this port was mainly on social impact and equitable implementation of precision medicine. In examining the broader social impact surrounding precision medicine, three main factors were seen as common social concerns. One of them being historic genomic data sets are predominantly made up of populations based on European descent. This historical notion carried over into an imbalance present today, which is being used to train many precision medicine algorithms. When personalized medicine is built on unrepresentative data, it can only benefit a specific percentage of populations. The second one is cognitive bias seeping into diagnosis and treatment. This was categorized as a person's nature on personal intuition or essence, unbacked by fact. People are concerned with increased focus on genealogy and race within the medical field, leading to some physicians subconsciously seeing race as an inherent factor as opposed to a more holistic mindset. When bias decisions are previously encoded into the medical system and brought up in these algorithms, they can only scale the bias. The third concern is over how genetic data is being collected and used. For communities who have experienced repeated exploitation, especially surrounding medical research, this is not just a simple privacy concern. The three factors are largely caused by past precision medicine implementations on society, It's a result of consistent, unequitable practice. This is not an unintended, unforeseen consequence. To instill societal trust within new age precision medicine systems, trust must come from bridging these ethical gaps. Two ways to do this are through innovative frameworks in which communities are genuinely informed regarding the collection and usage of their personal data. This can be done through open channels of dialogue, transparent company policy, and genuine community input. The information should not merely be disclosed, but shared openly and asking questions. The second one is transparency in precision medicine operations being established with higher degrees of statistical analysis and external auditing. Now on to sustainability. Here's Tom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Tian. I'm here to discuss the environmental, social, economical, and cultural aspect of sustainability. So let's start with environmental. Indigenous health is inseparable from the land. Factors like water quality, soil, and access to traditional foods drive epidemic changes that lab tests cannot solve in a vacuum. So, and by epidemic changes, that is the study of how behaviors and environmental factors cause changes that affects the way that genes work without altering the underlying DNA sequence. Therefore, yeah, the environmental protection isn't just a green policy, it is a prerequisite for medical health for indigenous population. Okay, and next on to the social aspect. In many indigenous views, illness in one person signals an imbalance in the community. We must move away from the extractive research where data is taken and never seen again, and towards long-term partnerships. We must ensure that research questions and clinical trials are designed by and for the community, helping to restore the social untrust eroded from the decades of unethical medical practices. Okay, and about the economical factors, a major risk of precision medicine is a high cost and inclusion. Economical sustainability means ensuring that any wealth generated from indigenous health, any data stays within the community. We need to invest in the local infrastructure and healthcare, and refrain from using indigenous, and we should be using indigenous scientists rather than allowing external corporations to commodify their biological data. Okay, and on the cultural aspect, cultural integrity is the backbone of this model. In many cultures, genetic material is sacred. Indigenous data sovereignty, that is the right of a community to own and control its own data, transform precision medicine from a tool of colonialization into a mechanism that enables for empowerment, and therefore merging traditional knowledge with modern sciences. Okay, next one, I'll pass it on to Zoe.
Hello, my name is Zoe, and my role is to communicate Indigenous perspectives on precision medicine. So Indigenous communities of Alaska recognize potential benefits as well as associated risks with precision medicine. The holistic approach that integrates the individual's environment, diet, and lifestyle lead to improved outcomes in diagnoses and treatments. And this also reduces the inconsistencies with the trial and error approach when prescribing medications or coming up with treatment plans. The main concern presented regarding precision medicine is the privacy and security of how genetic data is obtained and protected. So it is essential that there is informed consent when obtaining the genetic data, including who has access to it and how it will be used. These privacy concerns stem from the distrust of the government and their repeated attempts to eliminate them as people. Another concern is that if a genetic mutation were to be found in an Indigenous population, how would these communities be treated socially, and will they be facing any prejudices? Nadine Karen spoke about the importance of having DNA libraries for Indigenous populations. These are essential parts of all medicine. However, Indigenous communities are highly underrepresented. Having access to these libraries will further the understanding of how different diseases and diagnoses affect Indigenous populations and provide more accurate medical care. Mina talked about the importance of taking the medication prescribed for her health, even though it was difficult to stop habits she had previously. Now I'll pass it over to Rylan.
Hi, I'm Rylan. I'm here to talk about the risks associated with precision medicine. So on the ethical side, there's a common debate between people whether precision medicine is even a necessary step in healthcare. People argue that food and exercise are where our resources should be spent on more of a holistic approach to healthcare to prevent people from getting sick in the first place. Other spiritual groups express the concern whether this medicine is unnatural and if it's not something that we should be doing as a society. Another ethical concern is the potential for this technology to increase discrimination within healthcare rather than improve it. To begin with, this technology would only initially be available to more affluent groups until it can be produced on a larger scale. In addition, it is important that this technology is created without population bias to avoid it being more effective on certain genetic groups than others. This mistake has happened numerous times on large scales, and a big example of this is pulse oximeters, which have been introduced into healthcare on a large scale. The problem with this technology is that it is able to more accurately detect heart rate in light-skinned people over dark-skinned people, which is obviously a problem when you move into more diverse areas. So if we're not careful, precision medicine could produce the same effect as something like the pulse oximeter if our engineers and scientists aren't careful and don't consider the wide variety of people out there. If this medicine is implemented on a wide scale, it would fundamentally change how healthcare works. And a big thing that could be changed and negatively affected is the patient to doctor relationship. Doctors would be more kind of pressured to move into more of a data-oriented relationship rather than traditional methods and symptoms and testing that has kind of gotten us to this point. So whether precision medicine is a good or a bad thing needs to be debated on a large scale before it is introduced. And then I'll move on to regulatory risks. Since precision medicine is emerging in today's world, there's still a gap in legislation on how this technology should be implemented. This includes a variety of topics such as how doctors should legally and professionally obtain consent, who between researchers, pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare providers would actually own this data, how they would share the data between them, and how they would try to protect it from third parties who would want to sell the data and other issues such as that. A further risk that kind of expands off this regulatory issue is in developing countries, a big example being India, where this technology is emerging. There's a lack of literacy. Without the ability to understand what this medicine is, how it is implemented, and the potential side effects on the recipient's body can cause a patient to sign up for something that they might not really understand and produce kind of adverse effects on their body. Both of these issues need to be resolved in order to fully implement precision medicine in today's world. And then we'll move on to reputational risks. This technology is, if it's not tested on a large scale and doesn't have kind of, I guess, the science to back it up, there can be unintended consequences due to the nature of its genetic relationship to the patient. Any type of harm from science can serve as a barrier or trust between patients and the healthcare system. There have been numerous examples of this throughout history, and I think one of the kind of greatest examples is the introduction of thalidomide to pregnant women in the 1950s. This medication was meant as a treatment for morning sickness, but what it resulted in was many different types of malformations and in some cases miscarriages in pregnant women. So if we are to implement something like this on a large scale, we need to be careful that this technology is thoroughly tested and treated on a variety of patients, and essentially we're confident in it, because if we're not, then it can kind of destroy this trust that the healthcare system has worked so hard to build with its patients. And that covers the risks. I'll hand it off to Jordan for our final conclusion.
Yeah, so thank you, Rylan. To conclude our presentation, we have provided some main points for future advice for your company. So these recommendations are to help remain ethical and responsible in future actions surrounding precision medicine. Firstly, data protection frameworks should be invested in to remove any risk of misusing patient data. Along with this, bias and representation were discussed throughout the report. Therefore, prioritizing data or diverse and representative data sets by collecting data across various population groups is a method to avoid unequal utilization and performance of this biotechnology. And lastly, accessibility should be considered for future actions, which can be implemented by collaborating with both private and public institutions. Overall, precision medicine has the opportunity to redefine the current healthcare system if implemented responsibly. Thank you so much for your time.